Pledge as or die, the Axeman of New Orleans' real story. You can almost taste the brass in the air. New Orleans, spring 1918. The Mississippi rolls dark and heavy past crumbling levees, carrying away secrets no priest or policeman can dredge. Back up, street lamps sputter against sheets of Gulf humidity, and the city's famous wrought iron balconies drip rain like old bayou vines. Somewhere behind louvered shutters, a lone cornet warms up, pushing out staccato bursts that scatter cats along the alleyways. Locals talk of war and influenza, but after twilight the only thing anybody whispers about is the Axeman, the faceless thing that slips through locked doors, drenches kitchens in blood, and leaves nothing behind but splintered panels, split skulls, and the faint smell of cigar smoke. He signs his taunting letters the worst demon of the hot jazz, promising, play music or die by my axe, newspapers. Print his words in full, their ink still wet when another family is found butchered before breakfast. You arrive here as narrator, tour guide, and reluctant confessor, one more voice above the restless horns. Tonight we'll stalk back through Esplanade Ridge and the Ninth Ward, through warehouse districts where phosphorescent fog rolls in off the river, through tenement flats where Italian grocers hide children beneath featherbeds, praying the Axeman mistakes their ragged breathing for the hiss of gas lamps, but prayers are slippery currency in this city of saints and sinners. A firebug priest chains the church doors because the killer seems to love Catholic victims. A Creole pianist swears he heard a baritone laugh drifting up from the gutters the night Mrs. Romano's screams were sliced in half. A detective, drunk on rye, insists all the crime scene axes came from the same hardware store, every handle stained with a resin that smells faintly of absinthe. We'll sift cigarette ash from blood pools, reread the killer's jazz-drunk manifestos, and walk the razor-thin line between hysteria and reason. Each chapter will tighten like a garrote, 8 nights, 8 cadences, 8 escalating crescendos of terror. Listen for the muted trumpet in the distance, it's not accompaniment. It's a countdown, keep the windows latched, oil the hinges. And when midnight strikes and all New Orleans boils into music, remember, the city chose to dance with a devil rather than face him in silence, because in 1918 silence meant you might hear the crunch of wood, the wet thump of an axe head, and your own ragged breath turning to steam in the Gulf-cooled dark. Now dim the lights, cue the phonograph, and let the first notes bleed into the night. The Axeman is already tapping his foot outside your door. Chapter 1. The door left ajar. The first thing you learn about New Orleans in 1918 is that a closed door is never truly closed. Glazing rattles under the nightly freight of river wind. Warped jams swell with damp and shrink with heat so that latches slide like loose teeth. Almost every shotgun cottage in the 7th Ward owns an uneasy gap somewhere, a thumb-wide seam beneath the sill, a crack between knob and frame where lamplight leaks out into the street like butter. In a city born half on water, boundaries are suggestion, not command. 1. The grocers wake. It is Sunday night, May 23, 1918, when Joseph and Catherine Maggio fall asleep behind their Italian grocery at the corner of Upper Line Street and Magnolia. He smells of red wine and provolone. She of lavender powder dabbed behind the ears. Wedding china rattles in the cupboard whenever a streetcar rolls by, but they are used to that lullaby. Joseph double-checks the back door, bolts thrown, bar slid, padlock clamped. Outside, his brother Jake snores on a pallet in the adjoining room after a late shift at the bar. At T2:18 a.m. a neighbor, Orlando Geruso, wakes to a gong-like cast iron dropped on flagstone. He thinks it's a wagon wheel, or perhaps the thunder of river barges coupling. He rolls over, the city hums. Less than an hour later, Jake staggers into the alley, clothes soaked black, Ayuto. Help, his tongue barely works. When the police arrive, they find the couple in bed, throats carved ear to ear, heads beaten to pudding by the blunt end of an axe that now lies propped neatly against the bathroom door. The panel below the kitchen window has been removed with surgical calm. A wood chisel sits beside it. Not a single neighbor heard glass break. Blood arcs ceiling high, yet the killer left no boot print. Detective Thomas Tommy O'Shaughnessy pins a lantern under his chin, frowning at the empty wallet on Joseph's dresser. No theft, he mutters. The icebox is ajar. Milk turning warm. He notes 2 rings missing from Catherine's fingers, a detail that will obsess him long after headlines move on. But tonight he orders the bodies carried to Charity Hospital and the press kept outside the wire fence. Reporters will still smell copper in the air when dawn breaks. To crescendo of panic be Tuesday, the Times-Picayune coins the name Axemaniac. Italian grocers shutter early. Jazz joints stay open later, as if louder music might drown the scrape of steel. Mayor Martin Behrman convenes a task force and quietly instructs carpenters to reinforce doorframes across the immigrant quarters. Hardware stores sell out of chisels. Everyone fears their own tools may return to kill them. Yet rumor travels faster than panic. Witnesses swear they saw a tall silhouette in a slouch hat drifting along the neutral ground at Canal Street, tapping a cigarette against lamppost iron. A washerwoman finds cigar ashes under her child's crib and screams so hard her voice snaps. Across town, a stevedore decks his brother for whistling after dark because the tune sounds like Funeral March 3rd. The letter on June 14th, the Times-Picayune prints an anonymous note slid beneath their newsroom door, scrawled in looping, bourbon-stained script. They will say I am a fiend from hell, but the truth is I am the heavenly director of the Hot Jazz Orchestra. Next Tuesday night at 12:15, I shall pass over New Orleans. Only those who swing to a live band shall be spared. The rest will feel my axe. Typesetters rush the broadside to press. That evening, dance halls explode with patrons. Even the nuns at St. Louis Convent drag a Victrola into the courtyard, winding it tight while novices clap shyly to ragtime. A 5-piece brass ensemble sets up on the porch of the mayor's mansion. He sips brandy with a trembling hand. At 12:15 a.m., thunder rolls over the delta, but no axe falls. The city survives, but terror has become ritual now, a sacrament of syncopated dread. For O'Shaughnessy's theory, Detective O'Shaughnessy maps every murder on a grease-stained restaurant placemat, pins forming a crooked crescent along the Mississippi. He notices each victim's back door faces southeast, toward the river's bend. He comes by skiff, he proposes, 'tis off under the trestle, then walks the levee. But colleagues laugh, the idea is too theatrical even for New Orleans. Then a longshoreman reports seeing a figure hauling burlap sacks from a dinghy at dusk, disappearing beneath St. Claude Avenue Bridge. Police drag the shallows and find only waterlogged mannequins from last season's Mardi Gras floats, satin limbs, painted smiles, eyes long since washed away. The river coughs up jokes at their expense. 5 jazz as passport. Meanwhile, an itinerant cornetist named Buddy Blue Fontanet claims the killer approached him outside Storyville, a man in dark overcoat paying double rate for Blue to play Tiger Rag beneath a specific window at precisely midnight. Blue takes the coin, 2 gleaming Colombian $50, and performs the tune while rain needles the trumpet bell. Inside, curtains flutter but no faces appear. After the last note dies, Blue looks for his benefactor. The alley is empty yet. Wet footprints lead toward Dauphine Street, ending abruptly where cobblestones give way to mud. When police examine the coins, they discover the year 1909 scratched through with a penknife, as if someone were erasing time itself. Blue quits New Orleans that night. Some swear they still hear his cornet in the French Quarter when fog lifts. Off the river at dawn, a ghostly echo, warning sailors to steer clear of the city that danced with death. 6. The city holds its breath. Be late July. Grocery deliveries travel in pairs. Families sleep in shifts, one member awake beside a boiling kettle that doubles as makeshift alarm. pull it to the floor and it shatters, waking the house. Parish priests bless axes with holy water, then hide them in locked armoires, but locks mean little to the phantom who unbuilds doors like child puzzles. A preacher on Royal Street claims the Axeman is the devil's census taker, harvesting souls of immigrants who dare profit in America. Newspaper editorials blame wartime nerves, influenza hysteria, maybe even Sicilian vendettas. Yet for every theory, another night passes with hammering heartbeats and scratching branches that might be fingernails. 7. A lull before the storm. August brings oppressive heat. Even mosquitoes drone slower. No new murders follow. The city's shoulders unclench by degrees. Children resume marbles in the gutters. Bakers reopen pre-dawn, scenting the air with anise. Detective O'Shaughnessy orders the placemat map burned. Bad luck, he says. But on August 4th, at exactly 2 o'clock a.m., a streetcar conductor coasting through Esplanade hears a clang metal on metal, followed by a single piano chord cut short. He rings the bell twice, signaling a hazard, but by the time the car screeches to a stop, the night has swallowed every sound. In Chapter 2, we will climb the stairs of that silent house, where something far worse than an axe waits in the dark. Chapter 2. The Esplanade Nocturne. Some houses wake only when everyone else begins to dream. 1. The silent Husethi conductor's report triggers a patrol car to Esplanade Avenue, an oak-lined boulevard where moonlight puddles pale as absinthe. Number 2317 is a two-story Creole cottage twisted slightly off Plum, as if time has tugged one corner harder than the other. Police push through the wrought iron gate. Hinges squeal like clarinets warming up. Inside they find Charles and Rosie Davila, professional musicians who rent rooms to lodgers. Charles lies slumped against the upright piano in the parlor, a single slash carving through skull and cheek like a macabre smile. His right hand still hovers above middle C, ivory key stained red. Rosie is in the hallway, one bare foot caught beneath a toppled phonograph. The phonograph spins silently, needle-worn flat, suggesting music stopped moments after the killing. Detective O'Shaughnessy arrives, tea undone, sweating wry. He notes the methodical removal of a back door panel identical to the Maggio break-in. Chisel, wedge, axe handle left behind. Yet no money is taken. Instead, the killer plucked a single phonograph cylinder from Rosie's shelf, its empty case. Sits open on a chair, label reading Livery Stable Blues Original Dixieland Jazz Band. Outside, neighbors cluster with lanterns. One woman swears she heard two instruments upstairs, violins scraping along with the doomed piano, but the Davilas owned no violin. O'Shaughnessy pockets that detail. Thunder murmurs beyond Lake Pontchartrain as he whispers to his partner. He's orchestrating now, too. The violin man. 2 nights later, violinist Henry LaRoque is found staggering across Bienville Street, shirt soaked, bow hand trembling. He babbles about a figure in a felt hat commanding him to play something lively before vanishing into smoke. Police believe delirium tremens until O'Shaughnessy inspects LaRoque's room. Window gouged out, bed slashed, splinters on the sill shaped like pickup sticks. No blood, but an axe leaning against the wardrobe bears LaRoque's fingerprints and someone else's, too faint to pull. LaRoque dies of shock at Charity Hospital, heart ruptured though untouched by blade. The coroner writes cardiac cataclysm due to extreme terror. Rumors spread that the Axeman now kills indirectly, music as murder weapon. 3. City of Phantom notes on August 10th. The mayor orders every police whistle changed to a new pitch so that citizens can distinguish law from jazz. Smith & Wesson sales skyrocket. So do trumpet mutes. Brass bands roam the quarter at all hours, part mob vigil, part block party. Some buildings post placards. This house swings all night, spare us. Axeman, yet others embrace silence, hoping. Darkness forgets them. Streets split between rhythm and hush like two warring time signatures. Children chant skipping rope rhymes about the killer. Tiptoe quick, the Axeman slick. Leave your door and he'll pick. Play a song or feel his trick click. Click, click, ticking pocket watches become terrifying. Every soft click could be axe on wood. 4. Letter from the Rivera deckhand hauling cotton bales to the wharf discovers a mason jar lodged in driftwood. Inside, water-stained sheet music titled Death Rag. In the margins, elegant cursive gloats. I float like the mighty Mississippi, unstoppable, winding, inevitable. On the night the river runs backwards, I shall conduct my grand finale. Hydrologists insist the Mississippi never runs backward except during hurricanes. The note sets a clock no one can read. 5. The chisel connection Oshashashi tracks serial numbers on the discarded chisels. 3. Trace back to Gennaro's ironmongery by the river. Owner Gennaro Vitali recalls a thin man buying 6 identical chisels weeks earlier, paying cash, whistling King Porter stomp. When shown a police sketch, Gennaro pales. The man resembles Andrew Drew Castiglia, an itinerant clarinetist discharged from the army band for striking an officer. Castiglia once shared quarters above the Maggio grocery. His clarinet register is low and mournful, perfect for night playing, but Castiglia hasn't been seen in a month. His boarding house room sits untouched, clarinet case open, reed warped with mold, axe missing from emergency firebox. The landlady found rent money neatly folded on the pillow, 1 week's silence paid in advance. 6. Jazz funeral without a bud. August 16 brings the hottest night of the year. At St. Louis Cemetery No. 2, mourners gather for the Davila Memorial. Traditional jazz funerals begin with dirges and end in upbeat second-line struts, dancing grief into acceptance. But this procession reverses form. Musicians attempt lively tunes first, hoping to appease the Axeman while daylight lingers. By the time they reach the tombs, the band is exhausted. Somber chords grind into minor keys. In that lull, 3 pigeons drop dead from the cemetery wall simultaneously, next twisted. Superstition ignites, birds sense evil arriving. That evening, trombonist Caleb Slide Jackson finds a length of bloodied wire coiled inside his mute. He swears it wasn't there during the funeral. Wire matches the piano strings from the Davila house. O'Shaughnessy envisions the killer plucking it from Charles's shattered instrument, pocketing a souvenir or a calling card. 7. Rising tension, diminishing Ledshi detective's map grows frantic. Red pins for murders, black for attempted, blue for sightings. A dissonant constellation arcs from Bywater to Uptown, always curving back toward the river like winding clef marks. He overlays tidal charts, high water aligns with attacks. He postulates the Axeman uses drainage canals to travel unseen, patrols flood canal bridges. Still no arrest. Mayor Behrman authorizes curfews, but businesses rebel, tourists crave nightlife. The French Quarter throbs with defiant brass. In brothels, madams offer Axeman insurance in the form of all-night band residencies. Some claim they've seen a tall stranger tipping lavishly, requesting solos big enough to wake the dead. He exits before the set ends, slipping through velvet curtains like smoke. 8. A new note of horror. Late August storms lash the Gulf. On August 29, lightning knocks out power across half the city. During the blackout, O'Shaughnessy's telephone rings 3 times. Static hums. A low male voice recites, "Detective, my woodwinds scream louder than your sirens. Next I choose a family who plays no tune at all. Prepare to watch them die." In perfect silence, click, line dead. Switchboard traces call to Algiers Naval Station, but soldiers there were on blackout drill, no telephones used. O'Shaughnessy's wife finds him later staring at the household piano, revolver on the lid, unsure which to polish first. 9. Setting the stakes. September dawns with oppressive calm. Magnolia blossoms rot on sidewalks. The smell is sweet enough to gag. The city's nerves are afraid. Violin string one more twist and it will snap. Jazz dens plan a massive all-night orchestra rally by torchlight, hoping sheer volume drowns the Axeman's blade. Critics scoff. If you invite a demon to dance, he'll pick the tune. O'Shaughnessy drafts a desperate plan, post undercover. Policemen as musicians bait the killer with false gigs, but he needs bait more irresistible than music itself. He needs a household that refuses to play, and he must wrestle with the morality of placing innocents in harm's way. In Chapter 3, we will follow the detective's gambit as he tempts the Axeman with a silent house, and discover whether silence can truly be deadlier than sound. Chapter 3. A pact of silence when a city tries to trick the devil. Someone always pays the price. 1. The volunteer detective Thomas O'Shaughnessy posts a discreet notice at St. Patrick's Rectory, seeking a God-fearing household willing to aid police in thwarting the Axeman. Must abstain from music for 1 week. He expects ridicule, yet by dusk 3 families come forward. All are Italian, all own grocery shops, each bound by the same ancestral duty that once kept feuds at bay. Protect the community even if it costs blood. The most compelling is the Pepitone family on Royal Street. Frank Pepitone, 31, stocky, ex-dock worker, keeps a Louisville slugger behind the counter. His wife Esther is a seamstress. Her parlor overflows with bolts of taffeta and half-finished baptism gowns. Their 9-month-old daughter Lucia sleeps in a wicker cradle draped with mosquito netting that flutters like a ghost whenever the fan groans. Frank's motivation is simple. His cousin Catherine Maggio was one of the Axeman's first victims. If my house can bait the bastardo, he tells O'Shaughnessy, rolling up his shirt sleeves, then let him come knocking. Esther's eyes flicker, but she nods. They will forego every scrap of melody, no lullabies, no humming, not even the rhythmic thump of the singer treadle after sundown. Their silence becomes a covenant, signed not with ink but with dread. 2. Stringing the wire, police install a hidden telegraph line feeding directly into the Pepitone attic to undercover officers Sergeant Doyle and patrolman Reyes Occupian. Upstairs storeroom behind false wardrobe doors. Doyle is a former bugler. The irony isn't lost on him when he stuffs cotton in the horn's bell to muffle any accidental note. Their orders are brutal. If the Axeman enters, signal headquarters with a single tap. Do not fire unless a life is immediately at stake. O'Shaughnessy pats Lucia's tiny hand. We'll be closer than his shadow, he promises Esther, though. Sweat drips from his collar onto the child's blanket. Lucia giggles at the shiny badge, her first and last laugh for 7 long nights. 3. The all-night orchestra rally Saturday, September 7th, 1918. The French market erupts into a hurricane of brass. The city's best ensembles, Kid Ory's Trombone Squad, Jelly Roll Morton's Red Hot Peppers, even half of the ill-famed Tuxedo Brass Band mount flatbed trucks circling Jackson Square. Torches hiss, confetti swirls, and music ricochets off cathedral stone like pistol shots. Mayor Behrman strides onto a makeshift stage, declaring, "We answer terror with tempo." But O'Shaughnessy hears false bravado. The mayor's hands tremble against the podium. In truth, the rally is camouflage. While thousands dance, the Pepitone home sits dark and mute, a lone pocket of stillness in a raging sea of sound, for the quiet horse midnight approaches. Doyle whispers through the telegraph handset. No movement, street empty except stray cat. Headquarters clicks acknowledgement. Downstairs, Frank sits at the kitchen table polishing a butcher's knife. Esther counts rosary beads soundlessly. Mouthing each avable candle, flames stretch, bow, and gutter. At 12:14 a.m., a cold draft snakes under the back door. Esther feels at first a sigh of air that smells like river silt and cigar smoke. The candle gutters out. Lucia rustles in her cradle but does not cry. Perhaps even babies know better than to make noise tonight. reappears through a knothole, and sees nothing but alley darkness. Yet his pulse thunders in his ears, and for an instant he swears he hears. Tapping, 3 slow taps, like a conductor's baton testing the tempo. Tap, 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 he signals Doyle, who reaches for the telegraph key, then freezes. If they alert headquarters too soon, they risk spooking the killer away. 5 splinters and scream scrack. Wood fibers explode from the door jamb. The panel pops inward, driven by a wedge. A chisel scrapes metal, singing softly as it pries free another board. Frank leaps up, blade ready. Esther smothers a gasp with her palm. Upstairs, Doyle finally taps the key, SOS, but signals take time. Headquarters is 8 blocks away, and the rally's din drowns telephone bells. The first responders will not arrive for 5, maybe 7 minutes. The Pepitons have seconds. A black-gloved hand eases through the hole in the door, unlatching the chain. The axe slips in next, double-bit, edge-honed to mirror sheen. Frank charges, swinging the butcher knife. Metal meets metal, sparks burst like fireflies. The killer recoils a half-step, yet flows back in, delivering a bludgeoning swipe that shears through chair legs and lands square on Frank's forearm. Bone snaps. Knife skitters across the linoleum. Esther bolts for Lucia. The killer vaults the table with animal grace, raising the axe for a killing stroke until Sergeant Doyle explodes from the wardrobe, firing his Colt. Thunder erupts indoors. The bullet slashes through the killer's coat, carving a bloody groove along ribs. A grunt low, almost amused, then a retreating whirl as the figure smashes through the kitchen window, glass jangling like sleigh bells pitched to hell. Reyes dives after, catching only the flutter of a dark coat and the echo of boots pounding down Royal. He fires twice. Muzzle flashes paint alley walls. Whether he hits flesh or shadow, no blood splatters the bricks. The figure vanishes around the corner toward the levee, leaving nothing but a wet, clinging hush. 6 aftermath police flood the scene. Frank survives. His arm will never fully mend, but his rage intensifies. Esther's hair turns white at the temples overnight. Lucia cries for the first time in hours, thin, wavering, yet the sound rings like victory to O'Shaughnessy under lantern light. Evidence techs recover the axe. Brand Collins and Co., same make as previous murders. They also lift a fragment of cloth from the window frame, black wool streaked with brass filings. Inside the wool, a single catgut violin string is sewn into the seam, frayed where a bullet nicked it. O'Shaughnessy suspects the killer wears the string as talisman or trophy. Hospitals alert staff to treat any patient with a grazing gunshot to the ribs. Patrols descend on speakeasies, flop houses, and Storyville cribs, yet no one matching Castiglia's description appears. Instead, 3 clinics report a tall woman with a badly cut arm seeking bandages. She pays cash, disappears. Witnesses recall her voice, deep, smoker rough, could pass for a man in the dark. 7. A twist in the Scurreith incident shatters the detective's certainty about a lone male killer. Could the Axeman be a partnership? A shape-shifting legend wearing whatever face the night requires. Newspapers feast on the new theory. Jazz fiend may be female angel of axes. Panic swerves into taboo terror of a woman wielding masculine violence. O'Shaughnessy locks himself in his office, replaying Doyle's statement. I saw a shadow, broad shoulders, but the coat hung strange, like stuffed with padding, could be disguise. He lists suspects anew: carnival quick change artists, vaudeville cross-dressers, sisters of St. Mary choir mistresses, anyone capable of splitting identity like a bar of ragtime. But deeper, something more chilling surfaces. What if the killer bleeds music so entirely that gender matters less than rhythm? 8. The chord that couldn't be played. Lab technicians analyze the bullet's chord violin string. They discover crystalline residue rosin fused with salt water. The killer handled it after wading the Mississippi shallows, perhaps aboard a skiff. O'Shaughnessy recalls his discarded map, the tidal theory, and curses himself for burning the evidence. He pinpoints Algiers Point, where river currents swirl unpredictably. There, an abandoned sugar warehouse backs onto a defunct municipal pier, perfect hideaway. He assembles a team for a dawn raid, but bureaucratic red tape demands a judge's warrant, and the judge is drunk at the rally. The raid delays until noon. By the time officers breach the warehouse, they find only mildew, a scattering of cigar butts, and a music stand fashioned from a butchered church lectern. On it rests fresh sheet music titled Requiem for Royal Street. The notation is impossible. Time signatures change every bar. Notes leap beyond human handspan. It's a song no mortal could play, scrawled beneath in blood-brown ink. Your silence was sweet, but I prefer the crescendo. Next, I'll compose in thunder when the river turns backward. A storm front looms in the Gulf. Meteorologists warn that a Category 2 hurricane could brush the coast within a week, strong enough to reverse the Mississippi's surface flow for precious minutes. The Axeman's prophecy is no metaphor. It's a timetable. In Chapter 4, the wind begins to howl, the river prepares to churn, and New Orleans will learn whether music can still save souls when nature itself joins the killer's orchestra. Chapter 4. When the river ran backward, some catastrophes arrive on four winds. Others glide in on a single silent oar. 1. The hurricane's drumroll. Meteorologist at the U.S. Weather Bureau on Camp Street tap more skis in staccato bursts. Tropical storm escalated to hurricane landfall possible. Sept 16. Barometers plummet. Gulf surf pounds the barrier islands like mallets on kettle drums. Every porch flag in the city snaps to attention, pointing upriver as though warning New Orleans to look to its own heart, not the sea. Detective Thomas O'Shaughnessy feels the coming storm in his molars. Each lightning flash over Lake Bourne illuminates the case files scattered across his desk. Blood-specked photos, violin strings, bullet shells, and that impossible score Requiem for Royal Street. He traces the staff lines. They curve like levee walls, bar lines kinked where floodgates fail. The music is not notation, it is a map or maybe a ritual. Mayor Behrman declares an emergency. Grocery windows boarded, streetcars halted. Storyville shuddered, though everyone knows brothels never close, only candlelight dims. But what scares citizens more than the hurricane is the rumor that the Axeman will strike at the storm's peak, the moment the Mississippi defies gravity and flows north for a heartbeat. 2. River rights at dawn on September 15th. Shrimpers on Bayou Benvenue haul nets filled with mutilated catfish bellies filleted into perfect treble clefts. A child finds a driftwood crucifix wedged into the levee, hung with 7 brass reeds swaying like hanged men. O'Shaughnessy interprets it as a countdown. 7 reeds, 7 hours until something breaks. He dispatches Sergeant Doyle and Patrolman Reyes to canvass music shops for missing reeds or unique brass alloys. They discover one supplier, Deplantier and Sons, recently sold a custom baritone sax mouthpiece inlaid with reverse and quartz, an eccentric request, traceable to a buyer signing only a see the date of sale, the morning after the pepitone. Attack. The clerk remembers the customer's voice, deep but wrong somehow, like a woman pitching low or a man speaking through cloth. 3. The prophecy clocked. The hurricane eye wall is projected to brush New Orleans at 9:03 p.m. Tidal models show that at 9:15 p.m. the river's surface current could reverse for 240 seconds. O'Shaughnessy underlines the window, 4 minutes. The Axeman's grand finale must fit within that breath, but where? He overlays a transparent street map upon a Corps of Engineers river flow chart. Lines converge on the French Market Depot, a brick colossus straddling the quay, long abandoned since war rationing thinned cotton exports, its loading bay doors open directly over water. Inside, Miles of echoing corridors, perfect acoustics for a death concert. For a city in minor key, church bells ring noon mass early. Priests' fierce steeples will snap in gale force. Parishioners kneel into pews that groan. Like hull planks, some confess sins they haven't committed yet, bargaining for a tomorrow that might never dawn. Jazzmen argue whether to evacuate or set up in cellar speakeasies and blowhorn lines until the storm drowns them out. An enterprising phonograph dealer prints handbills, lage as Ordivic trolla discs half price until landfall. The line loops around the block. Terror is good for business, but O'Shaughnessy knows the Axeman is done with threats. Tonight will be action. 5. The final Baytunable to seal an entire city in sound. O'Shaughnessy narrows his trap, lure the killer to the French market, then flood the building with officers. He contacts Kid Ory, promising to clear the trombonist's gambling debts if he and his band stage a clandestine session in the depot precisely at PM. Ory hesitates, superstition reeking, but accepts when told the alternative is random slaughter. Better to play one hell of a send-off than die quiet, he mutters. To mask police presence, O'Shaughnessy assembles musicians and officers alike into a single ragtag parade, costumes courtesy of closing night Mardi Gras crews, feathered masks, sequined jackets, and for the police plain clothes, badges pinned on inner lapels. The city will think it a hurricane-defying last line, but beneath the revelry lies a kill zone. 6. The deluge Pennsylvania falls, rain sluices from gutters in silver ropes. Gas lamps sputter out, turning streets sink black, lightning sketches. Jagged pentagrams across cloud bellies. 8:47 p.m. The costumed parade snakes into the French market, horns held high to keep water from pooling in bells. Inside, corrugated roofs thunder like timpani. Windows rattle. Kid Ory counts off Stiti. James Infirmary. The first mournful notes roll down corridors, vibrating crates of rotting onions, stirring rats into frantic polka. Officers fan out behind support columns, pistols oiled and wrapped in oilcloth against rain. O'Shaughnessy stands center stage, revolver holstered to keep both hands free for conducting signals. 8:58 p.m. A sudden hush snares the trumpet line. Embutchers falter. They hear it. Tap, 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 not axe on wood, but footfalls, measured, heel to toe, approaching down the flooded loading ramp. A silhouette appears beneath a swinging sodium bulb, tall figure in black slicker, saxophone case dangling from one hand, axe haft protruding from shoulder, strapped like a second spine. Face masked by a battered river pilot cap drawn low, rain sluicing off brim. 7. The conductor, a rivist figure, stops, raises free hand, and snaps fingers once sharp as whip crack. The band, trained to freeze on cue, obeys. Silence blooms, louder. Then thunder. O'Shaughnessy's heart hammers. He signals Doyle on balcony catwalk. Stand by. The Axeman steps onto the concrete floor. Water sheens beneath boots. Opens sax case with reverence. Lifts an antique con baritone body, black lacquered. He's smeared with something darker than brass tarnish. The mouthpiece glints. Quartz chips catch lightning flash. A breath swells. Reed shivers. He plays one note. It's impossibly low, subsonic, rattling ribs, shaking lantern glass into staccato drizzle. Every light bulb still intact pops simultaneously. Room plunges into gloom, broken only by lightning. Officers shout, charge searchlights, but beams refract in rain mist, creating curtains of phantom columns. 8. The 4-minute maelstrom. 9:15 p.m. Outside, levee gauges flip. The Mississippi begins to flow backward. Inside, the Axeman's baritone erupts into a grotesque mutation of high society rag, tempos fractured, measures skipping time like broken phonograph grooves. Each phrase ends in a shriek of metal, and with every shriek a hurricane gust tears roof panels free, nature itself sinking to the killer's ragged score. O'Shaughnessy fires first. Muzzle flash frames the Axeman mid-phrase, the bullet slams. Shoulder clatter of brass as saxophone teeters, but the figure absorbs impact, chunks of padding exploding from coat. Underneath, not flesh, but layers of sheet music lacquered into crude armor, blood-soaking margins where bullets pierce, musicians scatter. Officers blaze away, shots ricochet off iron columns, wind roars through torn ceiling, fanning lantern. Flames into snapping banners. The Axeman whirls, slashing axe in broad arcs, severing a trumpet bell, splitting a crate to splinters, never missing a beat of demented improv. Reyes vaults from balcony, tackles the killer around waist. They tumble across slick floor. Reyes drives knife upward, ripping coat open. What spills out is not viscera but a cascade of photographic negatives, crime scene photos of every victim, faces melted where chemicals ran. The Axeman hurls Reyes. Aside with inhuman strength, grabs the baritone again, but reed cracks, silencing horn. 9. The river's breathens outside, surface flow slows, gravity reasserts. The 4-minute window closes inside. Hurricane gust sees for a heartbeat, just enough for O'Shaughnessy to line up a final shot. The bullet pierces the killer's thigh first, unarmored flesh. A howl erupts, half saxophone squawk, half human. Cry, bleeding, the Axeman drops smoke cartridge. Gray veil engulfs hall. When it clears, only scattered negatives, the cracked saxophone and a blood trail through a shattered loading bay or remain. Officers rush to pier, find a skiff line cut, not still swinging. River current now drags south, normal direction masking. Escape 10, casualties and question. Skidori's trombonist Red Jackson lies dead, throat opened by axe. 4 officers wounded. Reyes concussed. Yet many more could have died had the Axeman completed his storm-bound symphony. The killer bled proof of mortal limits, but samples wash away before daylight, rainwater lapping across deck planks like a washing board. Among the negatives, O'Shaughnessy spots an unfamiliar face, a young woman with violin beneath chin, eyes closed in bliss, on back scrawled, cadenza yet to come. Date stamp is tomorrow's. The Axeman is planning another kill, an encore to punish the city for interrupting his masterpiece. 11. Aftermath's dawn breaks September 16th. The hurricane is downgraded. The city breathes, but hope sours when word spreads that the killer escaped again, leaving a brand new timetable. O'Shaughnessy orders the city's entire complement of detectives onto the case. Exhausted brass bands collapse in flop houses, too drained to blow a single note. The detective understands. The Axeman feeds on fear, but also on interruption. Every failed crescendo stokes his need for larger spectacle, and somewhere, maybe, along Bayou Saint John or beneath the collapsed roof of a sugar mill, he sharpens his axe on wet stone and fashions new reeds from coffin nails, waiting for the next downbeat. In Chapter 5. New Orleans confronts its deepest dread, that no amount of music or blood will ever sate the Axeman's hunger for the ultimate unfinished symphony of terror. Chapter 5. The blood sonata monsters seldom rest after a failed performance. They simply rewrite the score. 1. The unnamed violinist. The photograph found among the Axeman's negatives. Young woman, eyes closed, violin poised, spawns frantic rumors. The Times-Picayune prints her face beneath the headline "Next Victim." Churches tack the image 2 doors beside hurricane relief lists. No one recognizes her until nightfall, when Professor Mile LaRoche, conductor at the Orpheum Conservatory, storms into headquarters waving a recital program. "This is my first chair violin," he gasps. Madeleine Brousseau, 19, prodigy. From Iberville Parish, scheduled to debut Chaussons. 3 nights hence at a charity gala. She rents a room on Ursuline Street, walks with bodyguards since the Pepitone attack. O'Shaughnessy feels the Axeman tightening his net, each victim now a deliberate note in a macabre sweet grocer, pianist, baritone. And next, a virtuoso string, too. Bodyguard in silence. The detective races to Madeline's boarding house. Her assigned Pinkerton guard, Oscar Flynn, greets him on the stoop, rain cloak dripping. Flynn reports nothing unusual except his misfiring. Pocket watch, stopped since 9:15 p.m., same moment the river reversed. Inside, Madeline practices scales, unaware her portrait stains morning newsprint. She agrees to move into the St. Charles Hotel under police watch, but insists the gala go on. If I cancel, he wins the silence he wants. O'Shaughnessy stations Doyle, Reyes, and a half-dozen sharpshooters on alternating 12-hour shifts. Yet he senses, every guarded Dora challenge the Axeman can't resist. 3. Dying reeds and rising Cluse crime lab chemists finally culture blood crusted on the killer's coat fragment. Type A, mixed with traces of quinine and nicotine. Soldiers. Tonic, hospital registries cross-reference all type A patients treated for rib wounds post-hurricane. 2 names stand out. One is Andrew Castiglia, discharged under alias Anthony Coletti after receiving stitches from a nun at Charity Ward C. Then vanished. Ward C. nurses recall he whistled Panama through clenched teeth, voice hoarse as broken reeds. He left behind a rain-soaked pamphlet from Duplantier and Sons about quartz-inlaid mouthpieces. The detective tightens the noose. Castiglia is alive. Wounded, obsessed with exotic horns, and no longer hiding Sachs' work behind male bravado. He now collaborates with an unseen violinist. 4. The quarter hunts Pullis flood the French Quarter, banging on loft doors, rattling crates in alleyways, but the storm's wreckage offers endless hidey holes. Meanwhile, Jasmine pass-coded whispers. Someone trades sheet music armor for morphine. A cornetist reports seeing a limping stranger in railyard boxcars, coat stitched with photographic negatives. By the time squad cars arrive, the boxcar smolders. Someone torched it, leaving only calcium residue from burned film. Reyes lifts a half-melted negative, faint silhouettes of church pews and a large pipe organ wind instrument of the cathedral. The Axeman symphony grows grander. Next movement may thunder inside holy walls. 5. The Orpheum Gala, September 19, 1918. The Orpheum is one of the few structures left unscarred by Hurricane Whitestone Fod. Gilt balconies, 900 seats sold out to benefit storm victims. Mayor Behrman attends, wearing flak vest beneath tux. On stage, the conservatory orchestra tunes under Mile LaRoche's baton. Strings shimmer, woodwinds flutter like frightened sparrows. Backstage, Madeline fingers her 1720 Garneri, varnish smelling of dark honey. She corners O'Shaughnessy. If he comes, promise you won't fire until the audience is clear. The detective nods, though sweat darkens his collar. Hidden above proscenium, Doyle and Reyes nest in follow-spot booths, rifles resting on sandbags. Hotel doormen double as ushers. Every exit guarded. LaRoche cues the house lights, chatter hushes. The overture begins. Massenet's meditation, violin soloist yet to appear. 48 bars in, curtain rises to reveal Madeline center stage. Spotlight haloing her curls, she draws the bow. First note trembles, pure audience exhales. Then the organ awakes. A subterranean pedal tone booms, impossible, because the Orpheum's pipe organ has been mute since 1915 flood. Keys depress of their own accord, unleashing chords that clash with Massenet, microseconds ahead, as though a rival conductor mocks the orchestra. Musicians falter. Crowd murmurs. Spot operators swing beams to organ loft, nothing visible. O'Shaughnessy's gut knots. He signals Doyle, check loft. Doyle edges across catwalk, but the pedal tone deepens, vibrating plaster dust into air. 6. Shadows in the loft inside the loft. Doyle finds empty bench, bellows pumping by hidden weight. As he scans, violin shrieks pierce the hall. Madeleine's bow skids off strings, shrill screech not in score. Her eyes widen. She stares into wings where torch sconce flickers. Audience gasps. A tall silhouette glides behind curtain gap, coat stitched with gleaming negatives. The axe flashes like lightning. Steel, O'Shaughnessy draws Webley, sprints down aisle yelling clear the hall. Panic stampedes. Silks and boughs swirl. On stage, the figure advances on Madeleine. Instead of fleeing, she lifts violin, answers with discordant arpeggio-defiant music in face of murder. The Axeman hesitates, almost respecting duel of sound. Doyle fires from loft, shot grazes coat. The killer spins, axe arc severs a backstage rope. Counterweight slams stage floor, sparks fly, curtains erupt in ember shower. Fire alarm gongs, sprinklers cough. Rhea leaps from booth onto fly rail ladder, repels to stage, tackles Madeleine out of axe range. She drops violin, instrument shatters. Garneri dreams end in splinters. 7. Blood sonnet with house mostly cleared. O'Shaughnessy charges through smoke. The Axeman kicks over timpanis, sending rolling thunder across boards. He meets the detective mid-stage. Axe slams Webley from grasp, muscles scream. They grapple amid shattered instruments. Killer's breath reeks of quinine and nicotine, face obscured by black veils sewn with tiny brass reeds. Through holes, eyes glitter amber. O'Shaughnessy head butts veil loose, momentary glimpse. Half-healed bullet gouge across ribs, lips cracked from reed cuts. It is Castiglia but gaunter, cheeks carved into sax reed notches, giving smile of serrated wood. He growls, the finale needs fortissimo. He raises axe for death blow, rifle crack echoes. Doyle's shot tears through clavicle. Axe drops. Castiglia staggers but kicks violin shards toward orchestra pit, igniting magnesium flash from broken stage lights. Glare blinds shooters. When vision clears, only funeral march echoes linger. Castiglia vanished through trapdoor beneath riser. Into warren of dressing tunnels. Blood trail winds under seats, across lobby, outside door into rain. Patrols find coat discarded on statue of Apollo. Inside pocket, a ticket stub for a steamboat departing midnight. 8. The escape on Stem riverfront. Detectives swarm the River Queen, an excursion paddleboat chartered for Warbond tour passengers. Already boarded, Calliope playing patriotic tunes. Captain denies stowaways, but O'Shaughnessy storms engine deck, revolver drawn. Steam obscures everything. Among engineers he spots figure hunched, tool wrench in hand. Turns it's a woman in grease-smeared overalls, left arm bandaged fresh. She hurls wrench, shatters gauge glass. Steam plume blinds cops. In chaos, engine reverses. Paddle wheel churns backward, peeling from dock. The gust rustles her bandage beneath, barely healed bullet furrow. Madeleine's phantom female accomplice confirmed. Reyes fires shotgun. Pellets sparking off boiler plates. Woman lurches over rail into river, vanish in churning wake. Lifeboats deploy, nothing surfaces. Castiglia nowhere aboard. Search yields Sack's neck straps smeared with his blood, but no body. Detectives ponder grim possibility. He boarded earlier, hid inside coal bunker, maybe leapt off opposite bank. 9. Consequence: Theorfume gutted, 1 civilian trampled, 2 musicians burned. Madeleine survives but left with stage fright tremor. She vows never to play public again. City laments silenced genius. Mayor declares martial curfew. Storyville dies overnight, its final ragtime suffocated under military patrol boots. Citizens blame police incompetence. O'Shaughnessy suspended pending investigation, badge confiscated, yet he refuses rest studies coat he captured, interlining embroidered with sheet music fragments leading to lacrimosed eyes irae. Latin for Day of Wrath, a margin note in Castiglia's hand, funeral dirge for the whole city October 31, Halloween 10, from Sonata 2 Symphony 6 weeks remain, Castiglia wounded, accomplice missing but not drowned, O'Shaughnessy believes. He examines steamboat ticket route, the Lower Coast Railway intersects at Laplace Sugar Refinery, abandoned since cane blight. There, subterranean tunnels once cooled molasses vats, acoustics perfect for pipe organ resonance. The detective assembles maps, requisitions shotgun, and pins a single sheet to his wall, a scratched-out orchestration labeled the Blood Symphony. It ends with one chilling instruction: all instruments rest except the city's heartbeat. Then silence forever. In Chapter 6, All Hallows' Eve approaches, and New Orleans will learn whether the Axeman's dirge can indeed still the pulse of an entire metropolis, or whether one broken detective can conduct a coda powerful enough to drown a demon in his own music. Chapter 6, The Halloween Dirge. No city loves masks more than New Orleans, yet every carnival grin risks hiding a scream. 6 weeks of shadow September melts into October with molasses slowness. Hurricane wreckage dries but never truly heals. Shutters hang like broken wings. Street lamps flicker and music halls sit dark as mausoleums. The Axeman's October 31st deadline hovers over morning coffee like the bitter steam of chicory. Suspended without badge, Thomas O'Shaughnessy sells his pocket watch to rent a windowless room above Mother Rue's mortuary, cheap, quiet, close to death. He spends days mapping every abandoned industrial site between the quarter and Laplace Sugar Refinery, convinced the killer nests where echoes linger longest. Nights he patrols levees alone, revolver tucked under sack's reed mouth taped to keep moisture out. Word spreads that the detective gone rogue now haunts the river like a wraith. Children swap dares to touch his coat tail. He doesn't mind ghosts, hunt ghosts best too. The female accomplice October 5, dockhands at the Stenty John grain silos report a limping woman stealing burlap sacks at dawn. Description matches the paddle boat fugitive, tall, smoke-rough voice, bandaged left arm. She loads sacks into a panel wagon marked Mass for the Dead Choir rentals. By the time police arrive, they find only spilled dry kernels and a single rosin cake stamped with initials M. Madeleine Brousseau, the violinist's missing. Rosin confirms alliance. Castiglia and the unknown woman form a duet of terror, sax and strings, blade and bow. O'Shaughnessy jots a musical notation, Adagio man on troppo slow but not too slow. They are pacing themselves for Halloween 3. The Cataco Morgan Laplace Refinery, abandoned since the 1915 cane blight, squats 25 miles upriver brick Leviathan. Ringed by rusted rail spurs and collapsed staves that once cooled vats of syrup, O'Shaughnessy breaks in through a storm-shorn window, flashlight carving cones through cane dust fog. Below the main crush floor he discovers cooling tunnels, mile-long concrete tubes where molasses once flowed. Dripping stalactites now hang like organ pipes. Farther in, a pulse of air hums a single, sustained F-sharp generated by wind funneling down broken ventilators. The pitch is precisely the note the Axeman blew before hurricane roof panels peeled away. Mid-tunnel, the detective's beam lands on a makeshift dais built from church pews, centered on top, a colossal hybrid instrument baritone sax grafted. 2 pump organ bellows, violin soundboard bolted across like wings, and at its heart a row of steam whistles stolen from riverboats. Coal piles flank the platform. One spark could feed boilers for hours, painted on the days in sticky cane tar. Blood Symphony, Halloween Midnight, all rest for Veroshoff. He photographs everything with a contraband brownie, but footsteps echo behind him, slow, deliberate. He kills light, ducks, silhouette glides by, the limping woman. She caresses the hybrid instrument, tests a violin string, then whispers soon. Fortissimo, her voice blends alto and tenor as if two throats speak at once. She wheels in. Burlap sacks grain from the silos. Grain burns slower than coal. Perfect to sustain steam. She does not see the detective slip away into drainage culvert, stomach churning with foreknowledge. The Axeman's finale will weaponize the city's own industrial lungs, blasting sonic. Terror across parish lines. For overture of fear back in New Orleans, rumors erupt. Cats found impaled on violin boughs, brass mouthpieces left on school steps like cursed candy. A doc preacher prophesies that on Halloween the angel of jazz will silence all hearts in a single measure. Newspapers print survival tips, stuff ears with beeswax, sleep in cellars, pray, jazz clubs, desperate, plan a midnight music vigil, every horn in the quarter to play in unison, hoping to drown any malevolent song. Skeptics argue the Axeman thrives on competition. Giving him an audience is suicide. The city fractures into factions, play or stay silent. 5. A rogue detective Sally stripped of authority. O'Shaughnessy turns two outcasts, Buddy Blue Fontanet, the runaway cornetist. From Chapter 1, secretly back in town, nursing opiate habit but still able to hit notes that rattle Chandel's sister. Hospice nun skilled with morphine syringes and lockpicks, her hospital ward lost 2 patients to the Axeman's scare. She now seeks redemption in shadow. Frank Pepitone, arms still weak but rage stronger. He brings Louisville slugger, nails hammered. Through tip, they meet in a cooling crypt beneath Mother Ruse. O'Shaughnessy lays out the refinery photos. He's building an instrument no ear can bear. Steam whistles tuned to kill burst eardrums, trigger heart arrhythmias, maybe drop levies if played at resonance. Plan, infiltrate refinery on Halloween evening, sabotage boilers, and if possible capture Castiglia alive. Blue volunteers to mimic Axeman's baritone lines on cornet, baiting him into early showdown. Pepitone will plant dynamite stolen from a levee repair shack, collapsing tunnel mouth if things sour. Sister. Dole's cyanide capsules only. For worst case. In case he forces you to play forever, no one laughs. 6. The organist's last breath, October 28. Father Dominic Rinaldi, 73-year-old organist at St. Louis Cathedral, is found slain at pipes, keyboard jammed with his severed fingers arranged to play a frozen chord that matches trumpet high C blood message on marble, pre-concert tuning. The murder is public proof Axeman still free and escalating. Mayor declares state of siege. National Guard deploys searchlights along levee. Yet O'Shaughnessy knows spotlights won't reach underground tunnels. He visits Rinaldi's corpse. Inside vest pocket he finds sheet torn from Lacrimosa, a fresh annotation. Desiree modulates to D flat when river fog rolls, D flat the very pitch of paddle steamer horns. The killer fine-tunes his armament. 7. Halloween p.m. The descent train begins again as always. The Axeman cues weather like percussion. Under Union Station's abandoned spur, O'Shaughnessy's ragtag quartet boards a handcar with crates of dynamite and brass mufflers. They pump rails west toward La Place. Racing dusk, cane fields sway, black silhouettes against blood-orange sky. Every rattling track echo sounds like distant sax riffs. Arriving 8:17 p.m., they stash handcar, reap along refinery wall. Blue fingers valves on cornet, practicing ghost notes. Sister carries rucksack of medical ether, plan B knockout. Pepitone hefts bat. O'Shaughnessy slings double barrel loaded with dragon's breath rounds, magnesium pellets to blind in dark. Inside tunnels, furnace glow flickers ahead. Steam hiss crescendos, boilers alive. They hear Castiglia's baritone sax, dissonant scales bouncing concrete. A second voice, low woman's hum threads between notes, violin yet silent. The duet rehearses. 8. The masks come off at 10:02 p.m. They reach branching catwalk. O'Shaughnessy signals blue, play. Cornet cries first bars of Tiger Rag. Echo ricochets. Sax line halts, replaced by raspy laughter. Castiglia's voice booms. Welcome, conductor. We saved front row seats. In the firebox, steel. Shutters slam behind the quartet tunnel, mouth sealed. Over loudspeaker rigged from gramophone horns, the female voice purrs. Tonight's program, Blood Symphony in 3 movements, Adagio of fear, Allegro of pain, Requiem of silence. Valves spin. Steam pressure gauges spike. Pepitone lights fuse on first dynamite bundle hurls toward boiler. Explosion rocks tunnel, but blast shears only outer pipe. Main pressure vessel holds. Castiglia answers with axe slamming resonance. Boards sending thunder shockwaves that drop sister. 2 knees, ears bleeding. Blue staggers, cornet bell warps from vibration. Sax blares be natural. Steam whistles answer in chord that rattles O'Shaughnessy's molars. He fires dragon's breath, magnesium star ignite star days. Flames lick hybrid instrument. Female accomplice shrieks emerges from shadow. Madeleine Brousseau, hair singed, eyes manic, left arm scarred by bullet. She wields bow strung with piano. Wire lashes at detective slicing cheek. He promised me immortality through sound. She howls, drawing violin to chin, sawing furious tremolo. Notes shred sanity, psychoacoustic knives. Pepitone swings bat, shatters violin neck, wooden. Shards fly. Madeleine tumbles. But behind her Castiglia towers, bare-chested, bullet scars forming crude musical staff across flesh. He lifts sax glowing red from furnace heat. 9. Breath of fire steam valve ruptures, scalding plume engulfs blue. He shoves cornet into jet, redirecting. Blast toward Castiglia, skin blisters. Killer drop sax howling. O'Shaughnessy empties second barrel, buckshot peppering legs. Madeleine crawls to hybrid instrument, slaps emergency whistle lever. Above ground, refinery smokestack belches steam. Distant levee sirens wail as resonance rolls across cane fields like 1,000 train horns merged. In New Orleans, glasses shiver in Halloween parties. Cats screech. Power lines vibrate. The blood symphony begins even without full pressure. O'Shaughnessy tackles lever, grapples Madeleine. Pepitone lunges for axe, but Castiglia intercepts, punching nail bat aside, driving elbow into Pepitone's throat. Sister staggers toward dynamite crate, lights long fuse, drops into boiler intake. She whispers credo, better silence by choice than by demon. 10. Fugue of fire and silence fuse, skitters sparks. O'Shaughnessy yells retreat. Blue drags Pepitone. Detective grabs nun's habit collar, she refuses. Souls need shepherd. Go. Madeleine slashes with bow. Detective ducks, shoves her toward Castiglia. Lovers collide. Steam note cracks into a tonal shriek as Tardes collapses. O'Shaughnessy sprints, half carrying Pepitone. Blue covering with warped cornet-like club. They clear tunnel bend as blast detonates. Molten steam organ disintegrates. Boilers rupture. Shockwave roars up smokestack, launching crown skyward in. Geyser of flame, cane fields ignite. Night glows orange visible from riverfront, tunnel ceiling crumbles. Shockwave hurls trio into drainage sluice, water-quenching flames on coats. Behind echoes die, followed by hush total, unnerving. No sax, no violin, no whistles, only crackle of burning cane. 11. After shock they crawl to levee, bleeding, ears ringing. Refinery lies in ruins. Stack severed like headless saint. No sign of Castiglia or Madeleine, either entombed or fled into midnight reeds. clock chimes from distant plantation bell. 11:37 p.m. Halloween still has 23 minutes, and though the Blood Symphony is silenced here, O'Shaughnessy fears contingency. What if another installation waits closer to the city? What if Castiglia planned polyphonic slaughter multiple venues, one survives? Blue coughs blood, mutters, he'll have fallback horn. Detective helps him up, then the finale's on the river. The only stage left untouched. In Chapter 7, the chase hurtles back toward New Orleans aboard a midnight freight as embers of La Place blaze behind them, and the Axeman, perhaps wounded but unbroken, races to strike the city's heart before the last bell of All Hallows' Eve. Chapter 7. Midnight freight to perdition, a wounded melody can still kill if it reaches the right ears. One ash and embers La Place refinery burns like a funeral pyre for the sugar industry, its glow floating in the humid sky while cane fields crackle with green-blue flame. Thomas O'Shaughnessy forces himself to look back just once. The collapsing smokestack resembles the neck of some brass behemoth, snapped by its own roar. Then he turns toward the rail spur where a lone Illinois Central freight idles, crew having fled the fireball. "Boxcars'll get us to town faster than any road," he rasps. Buddy Blue Fontanet nods through blistered lips. Frank Pepitone clutches a torn sling round his throat, voice reduced to a wet hiss. "Sister." Cheeks streaked with soot, sprinkles morphine crystals into their canteen. Pain must wait. They climb a livestock car smelling of molasses and fear. O'Shaughnessy pries the brake and the train groans alive, wheels screeching into darkness. K. Nash snow follows, settling on the rails like black confetti, to a ghost in the coal half a mile later. Blue freezes. Listen, between clacks of wheels, a faint click, 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 3 taps. The Axeman's metronome echoes from the coal tender ahead. O'Shaughnessy chambers a round of ordinary lead. Dragon's breath shells are gone. He inches across couplings, heat from the boiler searing boots. Inside the tender a figure crouches, bandaged arm trailing rivulets of blood and coal sludge. Not Castiglia, but Madeleine Brousseau, wild eyes reflecting furnace light. She drags a dented slide whistle along tender wall, sending shrill glissandos into night. "He's not dead, detective. He's ahead of you, always ahead. I ride only to hear the finale." O'Shaughnessy levels revolver. Her answer. She hurls a steam gauge through the cab window, smashing the pressure dial. Boiler alarms shriek. Locomotive lurches, engineerless. The train begins to accelerate past safe limits. "Sister." Tackles Madeleine, plunges syringe. A hiss ether blossoms. Violinist slumps, whispering perdition bridge. Strike the chord. Binds her wrists. Pepitone kicks whistle over the side. 3. Engine of panic-unattended throttle jams open. Speed climbs. The line crosses perdition bridge 10 miles ahead, a 700-foot trestle spanning the bonnet. Spillway. Disrepaired since the flood of 14. At this speed the freight may outrun the weak rails and plunge into swamp. Blue, half-deaf, volunteers to reach the cab and cut steam. Pepitone insists on covering him with the bat. O'Shaughnessy hands Blue a flare cartridge. If you see him, signal. They crawl across swaying catwalk, sparks swirling like fiery snow. In the cab Blue finds throttle lever wedged with clarinet reeds bound by violin gut. He snaps them free, drops pressure, but whistle valve suddenly yanks open. Castiglia lunges from roof hatch, axe haft now shortened like a drummer's stick, perfect for narrow swings. Pepitone intercepts. Nail spiked bat meat sacks, wood chips. Flying, Castiglia's bare torso glistens tar black where molten beeswax seals bullet wounds. He hisses allegro, and head butts Pepitone against brass gauges. Blue fires flare. Red star bursts skyward, for clash on the trestle from boxcar. O'Shaughnessy sees scarlet flare a hellish meteor. He yells too. Bridge. The trestle looms, timbers silvered with dew and neglect. He sprints toward the cab. On the footplate, Castiglia jams throttle again, sparks roaring. Train hits bridge with gut-punch jolt. 'Tis rattle like snare drums. Far below, spillway water glints moonlight. Pepitone staggers up, bat splintered, but he body checks the killer, both men slamming against coal hatch. Blue grabs an engineer's wrench, swings Castiglia blocks with axe shaft, pivoting to carve. A crescent through Blue's shoulder, cornetist screams. Wrench clatters into night, steam fogs. Visibility drops to ghost silhouettes. O'Shaughnessy bursts in, barrel pressing Castiglia's spine, pulls trigger click, wet powder from refinery plunge misfired, killer laughs, slashes rearward. Axe bites detective's thigh, pain whiteouts vision, but O'Shaughnessy rams pistol but into bullet gouge on Castiglia's ribs. The killer reels, 5, fight for the break bridge groans, plates popping loose. Steering from tender ladder, yanks the air brake chain fails, hose severed by earlier collision, only manual brake wheel on caboose can stop the beast. Blue. Bleeding, volunteers again. O'Shaughnessy orders, crawl the roof, crank it, jump clear before last span. Cornetist nods, eyes fever bright. He crawls across coal mound, hot cinders branding palms, then along boxcar roofs as world fuzzes red. 6. Duet in blood and steam. Castiglia seizes locomotive bell rope, rings time to his own heartbeat while circling detective. Each toll a rest, each rest a breath, yours the last measure. He swings. O'Shaughnessy blocks with shovel, shaft splintering, axe lodges in cab wall. Detective headlocks killer, driving both through side door onto catwalk. They dangle. Above rushing trestle planks, below spillway roars. Castiglia spits blood. You hear that? Perfect white noise canvas for silence. Pepitone, revived, re-enters cab, grabs reverse lever. He slams it. Gears shriek against momentum but ease throttle jam. Speed drops. Bridge timber size, some planks collapsing behind caboose. Up ahead Blue reaches brake wheel, muscles burning. Spins iron round, wheels scream. 7. Fall of the Axeman momentum lurches. O'Shaughnessy and Castiglia slam against railing, axe wrenches free. Killer raises it overhead but rail bracket snaps, both teeter. Detective releases grip, shoves Castiglia. Outward, the Axeman falls. Mid-air he catches bridge strut dangling above water. His axe plummets, steel singing final glissando before splash. He howls rage, not fear. Detective aims misfire revolver like a judge pronouncing sentence. Coda, he pulls anyway. Empty click becomes verdict. Castiglia snarls, hauling himself. Higher until flare-lit caboose wheel sparks shower, igniting spilled cane trash along ties. Flames race backward, engulfing railing. Oak beam supporting Castiglia bursts. He plunges, limbs flailing in grotesque dance. Water swallows him whole, ripples red-tinged. Then still 8 brake screech and silence a train grinds 2 halt inches before missing plank where lightning once split trestle. Boxcars creak like exhausted lungs. Blue collapses beside brake wheel, laughing and sobbing. Pepitone curses in Sicilian, tears mixing with soot. Drags O'Shaughnessy back into cab, cinching tourniquet on thigh. Wound throbs to rhythm of distant, dying sparks. Below, spillway churns. No surfacing shadow, only broken reeds. Float like dead minnows. 9. One note remains Madeline Brousseau, bound in tender, awakens to break screech. She sniffles tar smoke and smiles through cracked lips. You think the symphony ends with the conductor. She nods toward New Orleans, horizon glowing with Halloween fireworks. He wrote the score in me. When the church bells hit midnight, I only have to hum the last motif. Anyone who's heard his music will remember and silence themselves forever. O'Shaughnessy. Eyes clock 11:43 p.m. 18 minutes left. Train is dead in water. Telegrapher lines long since cut. Horseback won't suffice. Blue crawls forward, cornet somehow still slung. I can outplay a hum. He rips cloth from wound, fits mouthpiece. Each breath is agony, but he blows a clear. Middle sea that echoes down trestle, a steadfast heartbeat for the city to hear if wind is right. O'Shaughnessy orders Pepitone, guard her, if she starts to sing. He doesn't finish. The bat-wielding grocer understands. And detective limp to cab, coax boiler pressure. Enough remains for a whistle. At 11:49 p.m. they pull cord. Locomotive shrieks a note opposite to the Axeman's favorite B naturally flat, a musical negation. Sound travels across spillway like benediction. In the city, jazz vigil players pause. They hear two notes, blues cornet carried by river breeze and distant locomotive cry. They pick up horns, respond in E-flat, layering harmonies. An impromptu counter-chorus blooms. Streets pulse with collective improvisation. Madeleine snarls, tries to hum, but Pepitone's bat hovers. Her lips bleed. Note dies unborn. Bell chimes midnight. Nothing happens, no collapsing levees, no hearts stopping in pews. Only music, imperfect but human, rolling back the terror like dawn. 10. The unfinished score. 12:07 a.m. November 1st. City fire crews spot glow on trestle. Dispatch rescue engine. O'Shaughnessy relinquishes revolver, surrenders to captain, expecting arrest for vigilantism. Instead, mayoral telegram arrives. Badge reinstated. City owes you its pulse. Detective barely feels the pin when brass shield is pressed into his palm. Castiglia's body is never recovered. Spillway currents feed to Gulf. Some swear a baritone sax moans beneath waves that night, as if reeds turned to gills. Madeleine is declared criminally insane, remanded to East Louisiana State Hospital, where orderlies hide string instruments for fear of lullabies sharp enough to slice veins. Blue loses right arm to infection weeks later, but the cornet bell is mounted above Preservation Hall, inscribed "He blew back the night." Pepitone returns to grocery. Louisville slugger nailed over door like guardian angel. O'Shaughnessy limps the quarter daily. When jazz drifts from doorways, he listens for odd intervals. Sometimes a street violin scratches a certain dissonance. He tips extra, encouraging brighter keys. He keeps an ear on river fog to just in case. In Chapter 8, an epilogue of fractured memories, forged myths, and one last unanswered knock at a grocer's door will reveal whether evil truly drowned in the spillway, or simply learned a quieter tune. Chapter 8. Coda in the rain. A city never truly forgets the night it almost lost its own heartbeat. 1. November aftermath. In a minor key, cool fronts sweep the Gulf heat away, scrubbing summer's sweat from brick and bone. Boards come off windows, horns return to corner stages, and children chalk hopscotch grids where blood once spooled. Yet if you stand on Royal Street at dusk, you'll notice every musician gives their reed an extra glance before they play, as though listening for a ghost's permission. Detective Thomas O'Shaughnessy keeps his badge but refuses desk work. He walks levees at sunrise, limping, cane carving quarter notes in river mud. Some mornings he swears a baritone sax sighs beneath the ferry pilings. Just the wind, he insists, though his hand never strays far from the hilt of a new Colt Navy. 2. Shadows in the hospital ward. East Louisiana State Hospital. Jackson Madeleine Brousseau paces her cell. White walls scrawled with staves drawn in blood-brown rust from bedframe screws. Orderlies keep her sedated, yet every new moon she hums a fragment of Desiree in her sleep. Charts note pulses of arrhythmia in patients down the corridor whenever she sings. The staff has stopped counting chalk-white deaths among the frail. A new administrator recommends severing her vocal cords. The ethics board delays until more data arrive. Deep winter. A nurse discovers tiny shards of phonograph needles under Madeleine's pillow. When questioned, she smiles, mentions a man in the river who still mails her tokens. The letterbox reveals no such post. The implication travels back to New Orleans on the next freight, nipping at the detective's heels like a cold draft. Of Dread 3. The violin that wouldn't burn at Preservation Hall. Buddy Blue Fontenette's cornet hangs like a reliquary, but visitors gawk more at a warped violin body nailed beside it, rescued from refinery rubble. Luthiers declare it acoustically dead. Yet some nights, when humidity spikes, the strings long since removed appear to quiver. Those who witness swear a low G-string hum rattles the piano's soundboard-aided. Management blames streetcars on the anniversary of the Axeman's first. Threat: a tourist captures a photograph of the violin vibrating mid-air. The plate fogs before development, leaving only a silhouette shaped like a clef symbol carved from flame. For Plage as or Die returns February 1919. Newspapers across the Gulf receive a familiar looping script. Citizens of my beloved New Orleans, I find your silence since Halloween intriguing, but silence grows stale. I crave fresh rhythm on Mardi Gras night. All who refuse the dance shall again feel the kiss of my sharpened reed. Mayor Behrman convenes emergency council. Journalists beg O'Shaughnessy for comment. He studies the ink's chemistry, modern, not tar. The stamp traced to a print shop in Biloxi, Mississippi, the opposite direction of the spillway. Whoever sent it follows the Axeman's cadence but in a new key. Copycat? Or Castigli arisen from mud? Pepitone volunteers patrols. Sets up triage in church basement. The city steels itself for another night of bruised lips on brass. 5. An unanswered knock 3 nights before Mardi Gras. Grocer Giorgio Vitali, brother of hardware owner Gennaro, closes shop, hangs his crucifix over the cash box, and turns key and backdoor bolt twice. Rain begins. At 3:03 a.m. neighbors report a single piano chord slicing the storm. Police arrive to find the door intact, yet Giorgio lies face down on flour-dusted tiles, throat cut by something thin as a violin string. No axe, no chisel, just a calling. Card tucked into his apron, Rittard and Oshazihanchi kneels, tasting iron on the air. The cut is surgical, almost merciful. The detective concludes, not Castiglia's brutality, but someone refining his technique, distilling fear to a swift, silent stroke. 6. The rusted saxophonidivers dredge the spillway mouth in March, seeking storm debris. They pull up a rust-pocked baritone sax bell fused to river silt. Inside, a human jawbone rattles, teeth still biting a cracked reed. Forensics identify dental work matching Castiglia. Officially, the Axeman is declared dead. Mayor breathes relief. But the detective feels no closure. Too convenient, too theatrical, just another prop in a staged nightmare. The bell becomes exhibit in parish courthouse. 3 guards quit after hearing low drones emanate during high tide. Eventually, the artifact is locked in a basement vault, filed under evidence retained, case unresolved. 7. The city learns a new tune. Mardi Gras night arrives. Brass bands flood streets, colors whirl beneath gas lamps. At midnight, the cathedral. Bells ring. No axes fall, no grocers scream. O'Shaughnessy allows himself a bourbon on a balcony overlooking Bourbon Street. Yet even amid cacophony he detects an unfamiliar counter-melody weaving through parade marches, high, reedy, feminine. He scans the crowd, sees a woman in mourning black glide past, bandaged left arm cradling a violin case. He limps downstairs too late. She vanishes into flood of sequins. On ground he finds a single quartz-inlaid sax mouthpiece, polished, waiting like a kiss. 8 coda in the rain April showers. Detective stands on Algiers levee, river fog coiling like pipe smoke. He closes his eyes, listening. Steamboat whistles, gull cries, distant trombone scales, and beneath perhaps a whisper of violin tuning. He tips hat to the water, drops castiglias. Broken reed-in as offering. Current steals it south toward Gulf mouth where legends spawn. He turns for home. Behind him a faint tap. Tap. Tap travels along wrought iron railings, syncopated with raindrops. He doesn't draw his Colt. Instead he hums high society rag under his breath, daring the night to keep time. The taps cease, for now, New Orleans. Exhales never safe, only seasoned. The Axeman's reign has ended, or paused, or modulated into another key only jazz and nightmares comprehend. Either way the city keeps playing, horns raised against the dark, each note a candle to hold the shadows at bay. Did the Axeman's echo send shivers down your spine? Don't let the terror end here. Subscribe now to Crazy Real Horror Stories so you never miss the next true crime nightmare that keeps the lights burning till dawn. Like this video if the suspense had your heart pounding in sync with the killers. Taps, comment below. Which moment chilled you the most, and what real horror case should we unravel next? Share the story with a friend who swears they're not scared, and test their courage tonight. Remember, every click feeds the darkness. We explore together. Keep those notifications on and keep playing the music, or the Axeman might come knocking again.